It's been a few weeks since I recorded a video, and there's a lot to catch up on. I've been busy with other things and just spending little bits of time on parts of this project. So there are three main things I want to cover today. And the first is to finish the first pass of the Stripe integration. What that means is that previously in the previous video, I showed the integration where when the admin creates a product from our app, the Stripe API is called and returns product and price IDs, and we store those in our product table. So in this latest work, I've extended that so that we also handle the updates. So if the admin comes in and changes the price, changes the description, there's a call to the Stripe API, and we update things correspondingly. The next thing is, this is on the road to being able to allow the user to review products. So before we can do that, we have to, or ideally we would have some user profile. So I implemented a Lambda function that's triggered on post confirmation. So when a new user goes through the sign up process and then enters their the access code that has been emailed to them, the Lambda function is triggered, and some values in a user profile record are populated. So I did that, and lastly, allowing the user to rate and review products. And that is in service of something else that I want to add to the project that I didn't originally intend to do, which is some kind of integration with Amazon Comprehend, which I understand aims to make some analysis of consumer sentiment. So whether people like the products, like the store, whatever. Obviously, we're not using real data in this case, but we can go ahead and implement an integration. So I know that in order to do that, I'm going to need some data. So let's first look at the Stripe API integration. We are now going to handle the modify event. So to do that, in service of that, I renamed the Lambda function from create Stripe product to Stripe product, since it's all purpose now. You'll see here that I also handle have a case for the remove event type, but I didn't actually implement that at this point. So we're mainly interested in this modify. So let's look at the process modify. What we want to do is compare. When we get the event, we're going to get a new image and an old image, basically the old data as it was and the new data that has been modified. So we can do a comparison on those things and see which fields are modified. If the price has been modified, then we have to call the Stripe API price API and do some modifications there. Otherwise, we might just have to do only the product updates. So that we have a few properties to check: the name, description, price, and whether the product is active. Have a utility function just to see which things have changed, which things by comparing the objects and seeing which fields have changed. So we do some checks here, and if we actually do have some product changes, which is these fields, then we'll call update Stripe product. If we have some price changes, then we'll call update Stripe price. It's a lot of logging going on there. Let's go past that. These functions haven't changed. Update Stripe product. So basically, I'm just going to take all the values and just go ahead and update them. That's pretty straightforward, I think. The ID will stay the same, so basically we're just making the Stripe side match our own DynamoDB side. When we update the Stripe price, it's a little bit more complicated because Stripe can have more than one price associated with a given product ID. And you can read on their website what the scenario, what the use cases are for that. In our case, we have a really simple store, simple application with only one price active at a time. But the main thing I wanted to deal with is not having duplicate prices. So for a given product ID. So let's say a product was $10, then $20, then $10 again. Well, I want to reuse the former $10 price, not create yet another $10 price, just to be clean, clean and efficient about that. So what we do is we can call prices list, the list function from the Stripe API, providing a product ID. Here comes my cat. And we look through that list, see if there's another price that has the same unit amount and the same denomination or same currency. And if there is, then we use that existing price. And if it's not active, because it can be in Stripe but not active, we set it to true. And then in the case of no existing matching price, then we call create. So I'll provide links to the Stripe API documentation in the description for the video. And then finally, in our scenario, in our app, we'll just have one price active at a time. So we'll call Stripe API update on the prices and deactivate the former price. I think that, and of course the last step is to update our own record, our own product model. So we call a function with the product ID and Stripe product ID and the new Stripe price ID. So here we go. Update product with Stripe IDs. And that is that. Pretty straightforward. The only thing I wanted to mention is that, as I said before, I consider this the first pass. I think in the future, it would be optimal to have some retry logic. In the case of, and the other thing is, one thing I wanted to add to the plan for the store is an admin dashboard, and that admin dashboard could show things, statuses such as whether some product has a pending product ID or price ID, I mean, it's not in the real world, it's probably not likely that it happens. I mean, Stripe is a very reliable service. Amazon is a reliable service, but I think it would be good architecture to have a status that just shows, well, for any product, it has a current product and price ID, and it's not pending. Because if it were pending, we wouldn't want to display something on our site as for sale and with a checkout button, and then have it fail or somehow behave incorrectly for the customer. So that'll be on the list of things to do. Of course, I think we should always do a demo. So let's do that with Nulo Freestyle. Oh, 1 second. The reason no, hang on 1 second. I need to sign in as an admin. Okay, so I'm signed in as an admin. Let's go in and edit this product. You can see right now that its price here is $28.49. And if we look in the Stripe dashboard, we see this price is $28.49 and it has only one price. So let's change it to inflation. Let's say there's inflation. It's now $38.49. Big inflation. Submit it. And I should see on this side that now $28.49 is archived and $38.49 is the new price. So what if I change it back to $28.49? Put in $28.49, submit that. And now we should see that $38.49 is archived and $28.49 is active. So it looks like it works. At some point soon, better be sooner than later, we'll have some automated testing related to this and other functionality. For right now, just kind of playing around with things. Let's go to the next thing. So to talk about creating user profile on sign up confirmation, let me take a little digression. I was tempted into playing around with user attributes, and the documentation at the point I read it said that only said that if a user attribute was required, it couldn't be changed to not required later. I think the documentation now says that that once an app's user attributes are set up, they can't be changed. And I ran into that issue. I could get things working locally, but deploying would fail. And since, in fact, I had no real need for user attributes, I just left it as it was. What I had done, let me open the file. At one point, here we go. What I've done at one point is add some standard attributes like preferred username, given name, etc., to the auth definition resource file for the project. And subsequently, I think even commenting things out and so on, that doesn't, it will only cause things to fail, basically, if you try to make changes. And I'm not sure to what extent that's a bug or a design feature. Maybe it could be good use case, reason for that, I don't know. But as I said, I don't really have a need for user attributes, but while I was experimenting, I went ahead and made some changes, experimented around with my authenticator client. So in the authenticator client that's in the Amplify UI React library, there are a number of customizations you can do, and I'll link to the documentation in the description of the video. One of them is providing a form fields attribute, another or prop, and components prop. In a components prop, you can do something as simple as just adding some text or providing some text to customize the header, but you can do a lot of other things apparently. But you can also provide some form field configuration. So here I've come up with a number of them that will be displayed in a certain order. I've indicated whether the field is required or not. I said that preferred username is required. So when that is rendered, it looks like, let's sign out. So I was kind of hoping that this would happen. There is, I think, a bug or something that maybe, I don't know, I might need to address. I don't know. Maybe it's my fault. But sometimes this form won't be rendered with all the fields that it should be. So you just see right now, it's like the basic stuff. The custom text is there, but all the form fields are not. So let me reload that, click on create count, and then you see that all of my custom form fields are there. So I'd say that that's a bug, but I haven't followed up with the Amplify team yet to see what's going on there. But let's say we, let's say we create a new user. This. Let me grab email address. Just so I can find it later. Make it easier to find later. So now this user is logged in, and now this is an addition in this latest work, a link to a user profile. So I clicked on that, loads, and we see that we have those values, and we see that Biff Burns has not added any reviews yet. Let's remedy that. So let's say we go into this product. Yeah, let's just click add review. Anyway, so put in a review. The review's created. Now, if I go back here, I see that Biff Burns does have a review. Let's say changes it. So we can do that. So all that's there. We're talking. So we're crossing the line. We're talking about user profiles and the review functionality. That's one thing I'll point out. If I go in to look at this product now, and I think this product detail page, I think that this is, I don't think I had this before. You see each review has a link to the profile. Click on this user, and there's one thing I wanted to point out, that it's possible to have field level authorization. So I made it so that the email is only visible to the profile owner. So Mary can see her profile if she's logged in. She'll see that there. And Biff Burns will see, since he's logged in, he will see his email address. But that's that. The other thing, go back here. This is a new little component that I added, a little image carousel, just to present the images. Let's look at what's behind the user profile, the code that is. So let's start with the data. No, I'm sorry, the data resource. So we can see that now, previously we had product, just a product, I think, and product image. Now we also have a review model, and a review is related to product this way. A product can have many reviews, but a review can have only one product. And a user profile can have many reviews, but a review can have only one user. I've set up secondary indexes for review and user profile. For instance, it's very convenient to be able to list reviews by, or find reviews by product ID and by user ID. Similarly, user profiles, it's nice to be able to find them by a username, an email, user ID. And I've defined the profile owner in a field called profile owner. And I allow profile owners only to read that field, because I don't want the owner of a profile to be able to reassign it to some other user. Is there anything else? Yeah, I hate to go into tangents, but there's a lot to cover. I think this is new in this week's work. It's simply a custom resolver that archives a product and will, if you provide an archive, or provide the archive argument to it as false, it will restore the product, and that is, it'll set isArchive to false. If you don't provide anything, then it will set it to true. And that resolver function is right here. So let's see, false to true. So it's just a simple example of how you can use a resolver to do a common task. And then the thing to look at is our post confirmation Lambda that is in under auth. This resource file simply defines a function. I mean, simply, gives the name of the function. Here, because the function is named handler, this doesn't need to specify the file name. So here's our function. We're importing this create user profile mutation, and those were generated by, you can see here that the GraphQL folder is here, and that stuff is generated automatically by Amplify if you run a command like npx ampx generate GraphQL client code, specify an output directory. In this case, I just put it in the post confirmation directory. So it's going to generate that based on the data schema. What else to point out here? We're getting the environmental variables also generated by Amplify. So they're in this wholly generated folder. So it's got all this stuff in there that's auto-generated. When I was recording the video, I forgot to mention something I ran into, and just want to point it out because it might save you some headaches. It's right on deployment, I ran into some TypeScript errors related to this stuff right here. And fortunately, I found some documentation on how to deal with that. This is that documentation right here, which I'll link to in the description. And it just says, add the Amplify file to the tsconfig, and I did that, and that fixed the problem. Where's the, yeah, there. So I just did that, and that seemed to fix the problem. Okay. Just want to point that out. I think a lot of this is pretty straightforward. It's actually a very, and so it's true, I copied it verbatim, I think verbatim from the documentation, which I'll link to in the description. And the only thing I'm customizing is just providing some of these user attributes and mapping them to the profile that I want to create. So it works fine. I'm relieved to say. But as I said, just a reminder, user attributes seem to be problematic. That is, the Cognito user attributes. I mean, if you need them, set them up at the very beginning of when you're creating your project. It's what I'd recommend. For the use case I have here, I actually think it would be better for values like, well, to be completely separate from the Cognito stuff. Like, it's not really related to authentication. There's probably no good reason to store a lot of these values in Cognito. So we could have something that's triggered by post confirmation that prompts the user to enter values or customize their profile, fill that out, and it's totally related to the DynamoDB user profile table. So yeah, that would be fine. I mean, if you do have stuff in Cognito and stuff in user profile, then you have to keep them synced up, or at least you should. So who needs that? So those are just my thoughts as I continue to play with this stuff. So I think I'm actually gonna end this video now. I don't think it's all that helpful for me to go through the code of things like review create, review edit. If you're curious, you can just go ahead and look at the repo, download the repo. Because I'm doing pretty much the same stuff that I did in previous videos. I mean, I think I showed using selection set in previous videos. One thing that I did, I refactored product create and product edit a little bit just to use a common form. And I'm doing the same kind of thing with the review stuff that has a common form. Yeah, I am doing one thing. I don't know. Might be helpful to point out. This is a pattern that I got from another developer friend of mine that I like to use. The sort of generic async process status, where the states are none, pending, error, and success. And for some of them, you can provide an optional value. You can handle errors and so forth. That might be worth looking at. But I think that's it. There's probably no point in dragging this on. I am eager to getting on to creating, I think in the next video, the beginnings of an admin dashboard. And that's where I would begin to present status of products, like as I was talking about before. And if there are integration problems with other third-party site systems, then that would show the status. Or if there's a product pending, Stripe product or price ID, or let's say the values of analysis from Amazon Comprehend. We might eventually show sales for various products, and products, how many products are rated, what their ratings are, how many reviews they have, all that kind of stuff. I think it'll be fun to work on that and maybe present it graphically with some charts, some pretty bar charts, pie charts, whatever. So just consider that on the horizon. I hope you're having a great day, and Just as a regular reminder, there's an Amplify Discord that is very, very helpful, as well as the GitHub repo for Amplify. You can search for issues there or raise issues, and I find a good community, and you can find a lot of resources to help you solve problems or to raise problems. So that's it. Take care. See you next time.